Hey, I'm James Kotecki here in the C-Space studio with Terence Kawaja. He's the founder and CEO of LUMA Partners. He's an investment banker. You're a guy known for kind of plotting the connections between companies, between subsets of industries. What are you seeing here at CES that's getting you excited this year?
So CES is a massive show. It's at the beginning of the year. So when everyone's thinking about what they're going to do for 2017, this is the kickoff. And for me, it's less about all the specific hardware and technology innovation that's happening on the show floor and more about the media and marketing industry, which has become a very major component of CES and the innovation that's happening in that realm.
So what's exciting to you as far as marketing and media innovation?
Well, there's a whole variety of things, a lot of continuation of what has been done in terms of data and applications of software capabilities that enable people to sell media or buy marketing spend much more effectively and efficiently. And what's amazing about CES is you've got this massive aggregation of senior people. Mm-hmm. So everyone's here, there's a buzz, and so for folks in my business where I intermediate in a highly dynamic space, this is where everyone congregates to have those kind of conversations.
Speaking of people, I mean, a lot of the technologies you're talking about are in some ways taking people out of the equation for making decisions about where to buy media, where to place media, even how to create media and what you should be creating.
Yep.
What do you see the role for people, for marketers, in the ecosystem that's emerging?
Well, okay, so yes, there's algorithms and there's a lot of technology that can be applied, but two facets of that. Creativity is still the domain of the human brain so far. We'll see if AI can make you cry in a 30-second spot, but so far I still think there's an important human element on the creative side, number one. Number two is companies still need services. They still need help. You could give them the most fantastic software applications that in theory can be done on their own, self-serve, but the reality is they want experts. They want the people that understand these technologies and how they work to be able to control them and push those dials.
So what are the expertises then of future necessity and even present necessity for media and marketing entities as they face this new future?
So the bar has been risen in terms of talent levels. You need to understand data, you need to have an understanding of technology. You don't have to be a technologist, but you have to understand how these things work and how those tools can be utilized. If you're an agency, you got to guide your clients through this complicated ecosystem to help them make sure that they're picking and choosing the right vendors and the right strategies that make sense.
I'm curious about how all of this is evolving. Is it becoming something that people will look at, consumers, and think to themselves, gosh, gee whiz, this is amazing? Or is it evolving so that it's just naturally meeting them where they are? How are consumers going to experience all this new technology, or is it going to be largely in the background for them?
Well, in a perfect world, it's like a beautiful Ferrari with a gorgeous, sexy design on the outside, very simple, very appealing, and yet if you lift up the hood, there's all kinds of moving parts and a whole bunch of performance. Ideally, technology fades to the background, and really all you experience is that customer UI.
Since you are someone who kind of takes a macro view, I'm curious, do you think 5 years out, 10 years out, if you and I are having this conversation in 5 years, what are we talking about then?
Well, 5 years ago, the C in CES, which stands for consumer, was much less in control. Today, they're much more in control, and you're finding it's the marketers that are adapting to the consumers, and the publishers are adapting to the consumers. Basically, everyone's adapting to the consumers, how they choose, how they want to, whether it's ingest media, interact with all these new channels. I think in 5 years hence, it is going to be all consumer. Consumer will be deciding everything. We will see consumer optionality proliferate, and it's really going to be, we're going to be chasing them, which, by the way, is the way it should be, since consumer is one of the two principles of the marketing equation.
So does that mean that companies and businesses lose control, or do they somehow share control with consumers? Or
I think they have to adapt and follow the lead of the consumer, because that's where the money will be. If you look at Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram or any of these, or Amazon, highly successful companies that have built fascinating technologies and grown massive audiences, they've done so by being agile, by experimenting with things. I mean, Facebook changes its news feed like on a weekly basis or something like that because they're seeing what works. And what works is what consumers decide en masse works, and they're just following the consumer. And if you do that, that's where the money will come.
As we wrap up here, I wonder, do you have a prediction about the future that most of your colleagues or most of the people that you know don't agree with, but that you hold very strongly to?
So in the last week, everyone's been coming out with their predictions about 2017 and prognostications on terms of where the industry is. And I've been fascinated that the conversation has been around this notion that advertising, in particular on the technology side, is suffering. It's terrible. It's in dire straits because they're pointing out that venture capital investment has dropped precipitously in the sector. My answer to that, looking at the exact same data, is, well, I certainly hope so. You would not want an industry that keeps on having to be funded. So I think we're going through a natural S-curve of maturity, and we're just rationalizing. What people miss out on is, while there may be $1 billion of less venture capital that went into this industry, over $10 billion of private equity investment went into this industry, which just is indicative of its later stage maturation. Every industry goes through that maturation curve. We're doing it the same, and net will be much, much better for it.
Thank you very much. A view of the future from Terence Kawaja, LUMA Partners. Thanks for joining me in the C-Space studio, and keep it locked right here for more great C-Space studio content. I'm James Kotecki.